I would like to call the Police Station Building Committee meeting for Thursday, August 13th at 7:08 to order. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the
to
flag.
the flag to the United States of America,
And to the
for which it stands,
which stands one nation under God,
Our God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all. I'm a little choppy here. I don't know if you guys, I'm like cutting in and out. I apologize for that. Is there anybody for public comment? All right, I'd like to close public comment at 7:09. Made a motion for the approval of the minutes of the July 9th, 2020 meeting.
Scott is waving,
Okay,
and
second.
Mr. Lemay.
Okay. All those in favor? Scott? Art? You got that, Laura? Because I can't see everybody.
I
can't
think
see
it's
everybody.
unanimous. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go over to new business and project update. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Humes to give us a project update.
Hi, Angelo. How are you?
How are you?
I had given a summary in the packet that went out, and the summary had one error in it, and it was the total contract sum to date. And the total contract sum to date was only change orders through 1 through 8, I believe, and 7 and 9 weren't included in that. So Mr. Martin corrected that for me, and he has corrected numbers on his report. As far as scope of work that's been completed this month since the last meeting, there was a punch list that was completed, and all the work that was identified on the punch list has been completed by Bismarck. It included things like the dedication plaque was installed, commissioning meeting took place, the lighting is completed in the areas that they were going to put the lighting. And I believe just yesterday or the day before, they delivered all the O&M manuals and warranty documents to the PD. So the scope that was identified on the punch list, Bismarck has been continuing with. What has come up since the last meeting is some acoustical concerns with the range from the exterior of the building. So everything was completed. We thought it was complete, and they started using and test firing in the range. And when you were outside in the driveway area, you could hear the gunfire from within the range. Now, this is a new occurrence because before that, we did not have duct openings that went through that exterior wall. And it was a masonry enclosed structure. But to get the supply and return air, we had to put penetrations through the exterior wall. So it was first reported to us by Glenn. Kohler Ronan had gone down as part of the commissioning effort and experienced the noise that was happening when firing. And all of the testing that's been done is with 1 or 2 shooters. It has not been with full 4 lanes firing. So with 1 or 2 shooters, if you're in the driveway area outside, you do hear the percussion noise of the range. So some testing was done for decibel levels, and we did take some decibel readings at the property line. And we can report that while you can hear the gunfire, it is within the noise ordinance of the town of Trumbull. So I just wanted to report to the building committee, if you've heard anything about being over a noise ordinance, we have no evidence of that, but it is a nuisance. And the nuisance is the noise that you hear outside in the environment when the range is in use. So what I've done since then, and since Kohler Ronan was on site, well, let me back up to when Kohler Ronan was on site. They were there for commissioning. They did do some investigations and found that there was some contract scope that was not completed. such as the openings in the duct openings in the wall were not sealed back against the duct. And we have on our drawings that they should be sealed. They should also be acoustically insulated, and that was found that it wasn't done. So there's some contract scope that still has to be done. But instead of going back to Bismarck, I'm getting a little feedback.
Yeah.
That's me, hang on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, instead of going back to Bismarck and just saying you have to do this contract scope, we felt that a more generalized approach should be viewed to make this a better situation for everybody. So I reached out to an acoustical consultant out of Norwalk called Jaffe Holden. They're a Norwalk-based acoustical consultant, but they do work across the country. And I received a proposal from Jaffe Holden, and it was a proposal for $5,000, 2 site visits, and a recommendation. So I signed the agreement. I paid him $2,500, and I had him come out and view the installations, take additional meter readings at the property lines and outside, and they're going to offer a recommendation, their recommendation for what should be done to bring this noise level down to more acceptable levels. They were out on the site. Glenn was there. Bismarck was there. Colorado was there. We were there. And Jaffe Holden, I have not received their recommendations yet. But when we were on site and talking to the technician that was there from Jaffe Holden, they felt that it was something that is, with some remediation, they feel that they can find an acceptable solution. And it may be multiple things that might have to be done, but they feel that with what they witnessed and what they heard, they feel confident that they can give us a comprehensive solution to bring the noise levels down to more acceptable levels. When I get their recommendations, we have to then determine how much of their recommendations is contract scope and how their recommendations could be additional scope to the project. And an example of that may be we have to seal the openings against the ductwork. That's contract scope, so that wasn't properly done. But if they say that we should also acoustically line the return ducts within the range, that's something that we never asked for originally, so that may be additional scope. So I think it's going to be a combination of working with Bismarck and working with the town to figure out how much of this is going to be additional scope to the town and how much of this may be just contract scope that Bismarck has to do within their contract. As far as Jaffe Holden's concerned, their 50% deposit, I paid that. I would ask that the town of Trumbull share in that cost. And there's another $2,500 due once they give us the report and do their second inspection. The second inspection is going to be after all the remedial work is done, and they're going to come out and do follow-up testing to see that the noise levels have been reduced. So the time that our office is spending on this is at no additional cost. The time that Colaronan's spending on this is at no additional cost. We're just asking if you could share the cost of Jaffe Holden, and then we'll have to get some committee approval on what the remedial work is going to be moving forward and how that's going to be separated between Bismarck and Trumbull. But I think we're confident that we'll have a solution soon. If we can get that back in front of you as a committee and have you review it and understand it, that may be as soon as 2 weeks, but I have not received the report yet. So it's kind of hard to know once they get the report, once Bismarck sees it, once they can put some some pricing proposals together, how long that's gonna take. But once I get it, I'm hoping the committee can meet and take some action on that so work can get completed. So. I don't know if Glenn has anything more to add on that, but Angela, I think that's the summary that we have.
I have a question. So the 50% deposit you paid, and they are going to come up with a report. The remedial work's going to be done, and then they're going to be due another $2,500 that you're asking the town to pay for?
Correct.
And you feel that we should be waiting for the work to be 100% prior to, you feel that we should wait till we get this report before Bismarck makes it 100% correct?
Yeah, because Bismarck is engaged in this to want to get it completed also. And if it's just contract scope, then everybody understands it and they'll go in and do it, and there'll be no additional work to the town of Trumbull. But I'm anticipating that there's going to be additional work that Jaffe Holden is going to recommend over and above contract scope.
And why wasn't this thought of before? That, you know, like you were saying, lining the returns with acoustics. How did that get missed?
Well, it's something that we didn't include. We weren't anticipating that we would have this result. I don't know if they had sealed up the penetrations closer to the duct, if they had done a better job, if we would have been hearing it to this degree. But I think
that is my concern, that if it was 100% complete the first time, would we even need to go forward with, the specialist? What's their name? Holding?
Yeah, Jaffe Holden.
Jackie Holden. That's the part from the town standpoint, and George could, interject, and so could Glenn. But I'm just trying to wrap my hands around this, so we have something that's not 100% complete, and we're doing testing to try to make it better when we don't know if 100% would have been good enough. I'll pass over to George and Glenn.
It is. It's kind of a good, better, best. Right now, it's not the best, but it's good or better. But we've got to find a solution that makes it the best.
If I may, we absolutely have to find a solution to make it the best. We can't end up at anything shy of that. The decibels at the property line, obviously, if we're in a court of law, we're going to be able to defend something like that. But beyond that type of discussion, we still have the effect on neighbors that aren't far from there. And we know that we will absolutely live a nightmare every time the police department is trying to use that firing range, because standing outside there when we were doing those decibel testing, I was there also. We clearly can hear what is going on inside of there. And for neighbors that at this point are so aggravated about the aesthetic lack of attention that we paid to their concerns. If we had fencing and that sort of thing in the up front, I think this would have been white noise after a little while. But it's so sensitive there right now, and the nerve endings are so sensitive that I don't think that anything shy of they don't hear it, they almost don't hear it at all, is going to be acceptable by that neighborhood. So we really do have to look at it. What I've never dealt with the acoustical lining of a system like that. Do you have any clue what the order of magnitude is on something like that?
You're not rocking it out.
I do not have a cost estimate on that to give you, no.
Okay.
We have 3 sections of return duct, and that's what they're concentrating on. It seems like the sound is not being generated on the supply side. Obviously, the equipment, when it runs, the equipment also offers some noise to the environment, but it really hasn't been that the equipment noise is objectionable. It seems like we have an acceptable level of noise coming off the equipment.
Brian, I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to disagree with you on the equipment level and the sound that is projecting right now is one of the bone of contentions that the First Selectman's office is hearing on a regular basis. So we have a vinyl fencing system that we are going to install there, hoping to project that vertically instead of horizontally across those properties. But absolutely the impact from that system, when I was meeting with those neighbors, I was unfortunate enough to be at the house when it kicked on. And they all looked at me and said, listen to that. So I mean, that is absolutely extremely noticeable right at their back doors. So if they're in the yard, they hear that system loud and clear. So I'm hoping that the vinyl fencing, we're doing 8-foot sections in the front where the large unit is. I'm hoping that that's going to help. And the consultant that was there said that certainly would have a major impact on that sound projecting across there. But I'm not sure that just simply sealing up around that ductwork is going to give us any level of real improvement with the sound. And I've noticed even some of the installation of the wrapping right now, that is the exterior insulation on the plenums that are out there. That was noted by the consultant also, that it's starting to deteriorate already. So that we're going to really be looking for. It needs to be redone and it needs to be enhanced to the level where we can have some real sound attenuation here.
Brian, I have a question. Should we test this in the winter when the sound level will carry more? Because we're going to use that range. We're going to use it when it's colder temperatures, and without the leaves on the trees and everything like that, the sound is going to carry even more. So I want to make sure that in January, when we're firing this, it's not going to sound right, George. It's going to be the leaves on the tree are definitely softening the sound.
That provides a little bit of a buffer, but I'll tell you right now, because people's windows are open, they're sitting in their backyards, that's what they're actually experiencing. In the winter, I think that'll be less of an issue because everyone's windows are closed. And I don't think that you'll hear these sounds in the winter with windows closed. This is more of I can't enjoy my backyard now because I have systems that are kicking on and I'm hearing bullets bouncing off of walls. You know, that's how they're going to put it. That's not what's happening, but that's how they're going to characterize it. So we have to be sensitive that whatever we're coming up with the solution really is going to give us a very strong sound dampening so that we can, and you know, I'll try to continue with an exterior enhancement from a landscaping perspective. If we can do more along the way, we'll try to do more along the way. But this is really the mechanical system and its insulation that has to be addressed right now.
And George, I do agree with you, but we also have to realize that the neighbors that are there have not heard any range in operation for about 13 years. And now it's creating something that they've never experienced for quite a while. And we've got to find out, is the level of noise objectionable? Is it beyond a noise ordinance level? No, it's not. It's regular mechanical noise that I think we can diffuse. We have talked about a fence from the beginning of the project. It's not that we never talked about a fence or landscaping, but we've always considered that to be something that was going to be considered at the end of the project, and now it is. So that's something that has always been discussed, and the fencing, I think, will help. But I don't think if it was just the mechanical units themselves making noise and you didn't hear the gunfire, I don't think that would be, yes, it's a change in their environment, but I don't think it's a change that raises to the level of objection. It's the percussion noise that we want to eliminate coming from the firing range, interior, exiting the building to the exterior. That's what we have to dampen.
Absolutely.
The only way that I felt comfortable giving the town a comprehensive solution was to get an acoustical consultant involved. I didn't want to be the one to come in and say, hey, let's try this, let's try that, let's just get the contracts going. if there's a better way of doing it, we need to determine what's the better way of doing it. So we're getting a consultant, and they've been down there, and that's why I feel that, you know, instead of us trying to guess, they're going to give us their expertise in acoustics to give us the solution that we feel is the best.
I understand what you're saying, and I guess this is how I would just frame the position of the town of Trumbull. We would never have made improvements there that would have affected the quality of life of neighboring properties. So anything that we designed needed to have the consideration in place that we were going to have zero effect on the adjoining properties and residents of the town of Trumbull. So what we have to do is figure out how we're going to achieve that now, because we clearly didn't achieve it during the design and construction of what we have in place today. So from a first selectman, I'll speak for the first selectman at this moment, and I'll tell you, any effect to a neighboring property is completely unacceptable. So what we've determined, we're not going to walk that fine line of saying that we are, we're not exceeding a noise ordinance. We're not, because we're affecting quality of life. And I'll tell you, I'll go down in blazing fire. I will defend that to the death, because what we have to do is we have to preserve that quality of life in Trumbull. And we are going to be a good neighbor, and we need to figure out how we're going to achieve that.
Question. So it sounds like work needs to get done. I think what strikes me is that we've got a consultant coming in, putting a remediation plan together, yet we've not completed the work according to spec and design that, Brian, you had outlined and we had funded. So don't we want to get that fixed first? Don't we want to get the vinyl fencing up? Don't we want to do the work that we've got within our budget according to what we've asked for done first? Then we decide the level of remediation that we need to do. And by the way, I don't know about you guys, but vinyl fencing doesn't strike me as being all that acoustically sound deadening. But, you know, I'm not the expert there, but I'd like to think we get the work done the way we wanted it done. Then we find out what additional remediation do we need to do. Just a reaction to this.
And I can understand that, Art. The reason that we've decided to do it this way is because if we go and ask Bismarck to go and seal the openings against the ducts, only then to find out that it didn't give us the level of acoustical treatment that we were hoping for. Then we get a consultant involved. Then we decide that the ducts may have to be removed and replaced. Now you've increased the scope of work, and it's going to increase the overall effect on cost. So I think we can work toward a comprehensive solution, understanding that some of this is contract scope and then some of it's not. But I don't want things to proceed only having to get undone to get something else fixed. So that's why we took this approach.
Brian, can I ask you a question? Should that have been done first though? You're saying do something, then do it undone. I mean, maybe it should have been done first and then find out that it still wasn't satisfied. And then it would be on Bismarck to go back, or a consultant to tell us what was be done. It's kind of like you're giving a little escape there by saying, you know, they didn't finish it quite. They can still hear it. So, you know, foreseeing something like that. I don't know. I think they should have had it closed first.
If it would have been all done completely first off, I'm not sure we would have been talking about this right now. But I think at this point, it's an issue, and now we can address it and make it even better. And that's the goal, is to make it even better.
Hey, quick question, George. You're talking about the vinyl fence. So the fence that's there now is coming down. You're on mute. You're muted.
George, mute.
We installed along the property line what should be considered more the security fence, which is a chain link fence, a five chain link fence. We have, Brian and I have been working on the purchase of the vinyl fencing. I don't have the installation date on it right now to report to you, but that shouldn't be far out. And we will install fencing that is, it's varying heights up to 8 feet where necessary to really buffer some of the taller.
Jordan, I think it's September, first week of September.
Yeah, because some of this is special order of what we had requested.
Is that
So-
around the equipment or around the?
It's
perimeter?
along the equipment. It's right along the equipment. So it basically will form a wall right at the equipment. And the sound engineer that day, when we explained to him what we were looking to install, he said that would have some dramatic improvement in sound attenuation.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Is a combination of things. Brian will work on the insulation and the installation side of it. The vinyl fencing will certainly provide some additional acoustical qualities, and from there, I'm not sure the consultant is really going to have to guide us.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and I do want to go on record, Brian, it's saying, I think you absolutely did exactly what we needed to do, is bringing in an acoustical engineer like that is going to come in with the professional, some professional direction as to what we have to do. That's critical, because otherwise it's a guessing game, and we're trying to patch here, patch there to see what we get. But this is absolutely the right way to go.
And Joe, I just want to clarify, we're not doing any fence over. We have a security fence along the perimeter, and then there's going to be the vinyl fence that's going to go along the equipment in the concrete pad, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. And we've already, as you've seen, installed the 6-foot arborvitae wall that, as that fills out, that will continue to also improve this. And we'll have to determine if something else in the way of landscaping will be needed in the future also.
Glenn?
Yeah, it certainly needs to be fixed. And yeah, I started this issue, or uncovered it at least, with some test firing. From an operational standpoint, yeah, with that description of good and better, the testing and the monitoring and what was witnessed so far was all done during day hours, when we have ambient noise of everything going on in the neighborhood and traffic and so forth. From my point of view, I have 3 shifts of officers that work around the clock here. And from years past, my ability to take advantage of an indoor range for remedial firearms training and building skills that we need to do on a regular basis. What I experienced there, and why I was so distraught over this, was that it was obvious that there's no after hours firing going to be done at all, the way we sit now. So yes, to attain the best level that we can, I think is important for us to be able to use the facility. And what we're experiencing during the day is only going to be magnified after hours. There's no doubt we're obviously not going to use it now, but I hope in the end of this, we'll at least be able to extend the usable hours without upsetting anyone in the surrounding area. And I can certainly understand that. When these houses, the backs of the houses, if anybody has not seen this, I would estimate maybe 150 feet from the wall that we're discussing. And there's no question of when we're firing and when we're not.
I have a question for Brian, if I could, Angela. Brian, do you know whether and to what extent or percentage noise attenuation can be achieved? I mean, can you get 100%?
I think that's the goal, and I think that's why the acoustical consultants were brought on. And I think when they left, they were thinking that this is a solvable solution. So I don't think they left scratching their heads. I think they left with, maybe there are multiple things that they can do and multiple things they can recommend. Now they're going to go back and figure out what their conclusion is and forward that to us and to the town. So I'll share that with you when I get it. I hope to get it next week. But I think that they see this as something that's achievable.
So Brian, it hopes that the equipment, when it's running with the return, will drown out the sounds of the gun firing in the firing range? I think it'd be better to hear the equipment humming than to hear the gunshot. George, you're on mute.
No,
No.
that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for, is that equipment is not on, and we have an acceptable decibel level at those homes. You know, that it's not something that you're living with, you know, with roaring thunder in the background. It's Glenn, I've
But
been
the
there.
equipment is on when you're shooting, correct?
What's that?
It is.
The equipment is on when you're shooting because of the positive air or negative air, correct?
Yep. But we're trying to even negate whatever sound we're getting from that. Because right now, what we're working on is actually on the mechanical system sound with all of this fencing and buffering with landscape. We hadn't even really, we didn't think that we had an issue with the actual firing of inside of the range. And Glenn and I had a conversation and he said, we better do some testing soon. And then as soon as he did that, we realized, whoa, we have an additional issue here, which is the actual firing. So it's both. But, you
Surely
know,
this isn't the first firing range that's been installed and dropped in the middle of a neighborhood. This has to be something that others have done and is very manageable, should have been designed, should have been completed according to spec. And then we should be looking back saying, you know, how did we misjudge this? So I don't understand the complexity. Frankly, I don't remember ever even having a conversation about sound. I thought the outdoors was more about aesthetics than even sound. So it seems like we missed this one, but you know, I'm all in support of fixing it for sure.
Commissioner, you're 100% right. That's exactly the position that I'm taking. We didn't hear anything before. So whatever we designed there had to take into consideration that we should not be hearing anything after. So that's exactly the position that I'm taking. And that's an engineering issue that needs to be resolved. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to our consultant that has come on board to provide us with the guidance on how we achieve that, because you're 100% correct.
No, we have to.
And you know, one thing that I'll say, that is a double wall with an insulation, and then we penetrated that. So then you have, when you fire inside the range, it's echoing through that. So the acoustical insulation that Brian mentioned before should dampen that. But I'll tell you, the minute you pierce the veil, you know, on anything that's a solid component that's been just top to bottom, it's solid. The minute you pierce that, you have to take extra precaution because you always are going to have these type of issues. Even water penetration. Brian, one of the things I want you to please look at there is I didn't see any flashing over those 3 openings. And normally it should be flashed into the brick so that as water comes down that facade, it doesn't work its way into the building. It weeps out. Because it's not an issue for, you know, this year or next year, but 4, 5, 6, 7 years out, we're going to be talking about, we have a moisture issue in the lower level. We have to do a dehumidification. So that's something, please, if you can take a look at also, I'd really appreciate it.
We can, George. We can. It is on our drawings too.
That's all that I have.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I have one question for Dan. Dan, what does the budget look like at this point in terms of, just to hear, hypothetically talking, of no commitments from the from the committee, but what does it look like for funds left?
All right, so after we've got everything in, including the vinyl fence that we have the PO for, we have approximately $15,500 that is left in the bond that's left in the bond available. If you're deciding to share on that the consultant, that puts you down to $13,050 in round numbers as being available.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions?
That's all contingency, Dan?
That's all out of the unspent budgets. We established budgets way along, right at the very beginning of time, but now that we've gotten so close to the end, it's just the combination of everything that's left unspent on the bond, excluding our bonding costs that we have to maintain. That's what's there.
Yeah, understood that it's left over. I just want to, is that in a contingency line item though, or is that?
Yes, it is. It's coming out. We're basically draining the owner's contingency. We've
Right.
gone into a deficit position, but we've been using, that's where we've been putting all this stuff.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions regarding project status? All right. I will say this, Brian, I am not I'm frustrated that, we are going through this. We have to make it right for the neighbors, that the work wasn't completed 100% correct the first time. That is very frustrating, but we do have to make this, as George said, as best as possible. So we're going to go to approve invoices at this time. Glenn?
You're gonna vote on paying. Brian, is you want the committee to pay half this consultant and you're gonna pay the other half? Is that?
We've already paid half the consultant. If it's agreeable to the town that the other 50% is not due until all of the work has been completed and they've come out a second time and tested it and found that it's acceptable to the town. So that
could
payment
table that.
is not due.
Jim, can we table that discussion, or do we have to? Do we
You
have to vote
definitely
on
can.
that tonight?
No,
Okay.
you do not have to vote on that tonight. Brian said it's not even due, and have anybody seen any paperwork? I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen any paperwork. I'd like to see, something that says that, and then not to exceed $5,000, or,
Sure.
I need to see paperwork on that, and also, like you said, something that it starts as 5, and the next thing you know, it's at 50.
Well, I did
So we're
send
gonna-
the proposal to Glenn. I can forward it to the committee also.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it attached to one of his earlier messages. If need be, I could present it with agenda material for our next meeting, or however you want to handle that, Chairman.
Yeah, let's do that, because we have, I want to see the timetable. We really don't want this to drag on. Hopefully, this report, we're supposed to see it Tuesday, right? Brian?
I don't have any date. I'm hoping to see it next week.
Next week. So, okay, I thought there would be some report before the meeting. So we're going to hold off on that. And then I guess with the approval of the invoices, Brian, have you gone through them? The AI?
I have. I did forward the Bismarck invoice. They were at a 5% retainage. They're invoicing now for half of the retainage, which brings the retainage down to 2.5%. The punch list, obviously, that was identified in the punch list, they've completed, but now that this acoustical issue has come up, we found there's additional scope that they have to remain on the job to complete. So I felt that it's about $50,000 still being retained is more than sufficient to protect the town at 2.5% retainage.
And I see a line item in there for HVAC for 10.8, and the work isn't complete. I mean, I have a hard time, paying something out and the work is not complete. I mean, George, what's your opinion on this? You do this. Mute. You're muted.
Yeah, I apologize. It's been a long day. Yeah, I think it's important to bring this consultant on. I think we should support it. Obviously the outcome of what that report is going to present to us is what we're going to have more discussion on.
So you're comfortable, you know, releasing 10,000 in HVAC and, okay. You guys are the pros.
Yeah.
Dan, everything looks okay on your end, Dan, with the AA?
Yeah, it does, Angela. It's everything is in order as far as I can see, other than, you know, I'm on the same page with you as far as the HVAC thing is concerned.
Yeah, and Brian, the only thing would be the installation, I would assume, was done by the HVAC contractor. We need to have
Yeah,
them take a look at what we got there.
It was on the deficiency list, and I was told that
Right.
they were coming out and scheduled to come out and work on that this week.
Okay, great,
I don't know if they've been out there or not, but they're scheduled to come out.
great. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the invoice?
So moved.
Dr. Thornton,
Second,
Second, Art.
all those in favor? Aye.
can I ask for some clarification, Angela?
Yes.
So the bill as presented, Brian, the bill as presented right now is for 50, it's upside down here, 57,000 something, and that's 50% of what's due them?
No, the current
Correct.
payment due is 72,575.
Yeah, it leaves a balance of
48,242 to finish.
2.5% is 50,000, right, of the project?
Right. Correct.
Okay, so on the line, it looks like on the line that says current payment due is 48,000, or am I looking at it the wrong way and it's 70?
It's 72,575.17 is
Okay.
current payment due.
It's
Okay.
line 8 on the
Line 8.
line 8.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so the motion was to approve the 72,000 something.
575.17.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, before we move on to any old businesses, anybody have any questions with the project update? Next steps, anything? Jim, anyone? Everybody's good?
Yep.
All right, Glenn, is there any old business to discuss?
No, only included is the progress document that was started by Lisa originally. I updated it and modified it slightly. As Brian mentioned, on this single page document, Bismarck did provide just day before yesterday the manuals and warranties. I made some more detailed notes as to progress as to the fencing and the plantings. As we commented, the plaque was mounted and completed back on July 17th. And one of the last items on the table was the completion of the furniture for the range that we were waiting on. So that completes all the furniture that was left open in the past. So I'll revise this and I'll provide a new copy by the time we meet again. Mr. Chairman, you muted.
Oh, sorry about that. I would just, at this time, I'd like to thank George and the Public Works Department for, basically doing so much with the neighbors and that area. I know they've been out here several times trying to address issues, and they've been very helpful with everything that's been going on. Glenn's been filling me in, so we appreciate that, George. Okay, I have a motion to adjourn if there's no other business.
Just one thing,
Okay.
Angelo. I don't know where the actual invoice is, but I need you to sign it and get it to me.
I can, Glenn, do you have that?
I don't have an original. I only have the scanned copy that was provided. I believe this needs to be an original copy, does it not?
Yes, it does. And
You-
the one I have doesn't have Brian's signature on it as well. So,
Correct. I need to sign it first.
all right. So if you can route it through Brian. So
Yeah.
I can process this, please.
Yeah, Brian,
Correct.
if you get it to Dan, I could, are you in at town hall at all during the day, Dan, or?
I'm there Mondays and Thursdays.
Yeah, so I could catch up. I can come to town hall and sign it for you.
All right.
Thank you.
Angelo? We're
Yes.
scheduling another meeting now, or you're gonna hold off, or?
I think it's gonna be dependent upon the acoustical report. And then we'll have to go from there and see everybody's availability. So we're not scrambling for a quorum at last minute.
The city will have it next week, right, Brian?
I mean, we could tentatively schedule it for 2 weeks, but is that the 27th? Is that back to school night or anything like that? Or?
You can tentatively schedule it. I should for it, and Bismarck should have a chance to review it, and we should have a chance to review it. Kohler Ronan's going to also input. So I would say tentatively in 2 weeks. That's a good target date.
So that, Brian, that'll give enough time to review it and start putting numbers to that, or we're gonna have to do another meeting after that?
It's hard to say, Angelo. I think if you schedule it in 2 weeks, we can give you an update as the closer we get.
Okay, thank you.
And Brian, if you get that report in advance, I assume it can get circulated to the committee members prior to the meeting, right? Everybody can get a look at that. Great, thanks.
Right. At 7:55, do I have a motion to adjourn?
LeMay and Thornton?
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Well, thank you, everybody, for taking
Thank
your
you.
time and being patient with us getting a quorum. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
You too.